Hey guys, it's Drew again. What piece have you had in your collection longer than anything else? Think about it. Today we're going to talk about a man who received a baseball in 1933 signed by Babe Ruth. He had it all the way till he passed away in 2008. It's not the fact that he had this baseball that made it so special. It's the story behind why he received it in the first place that makes it worth retelling. So let's check it out. So we're talking about a little boy named John Murdoch, who in 1933 was 11 years old. And he lived in an orphanage in Passaic, New Jersey. Now, this orphanage was not necessarily for kids that didn't have any parents. This was during the Depression. And what happened is his mother had passed away, but he had siblings and he had a father, but his father just couldn't afford it. So he was sent to live in this orphanage. Well, like him and all his little buddies, they were into baseball, just like anybody else. They would go out and play as much as they can, sandlot ball and pickup games and all this other stuff. But it was raining. It didn't just rain for that day. It rained for days on end, and they were worried. This little group of 6 boys were worried about their baseball field. I mean, what is the rain going to do? Are we going to be able to play? Well, they finally got permission as the rain let up to go out and check out the field. And when they did, they found it was an absolute disaster. It was a mess. There was mud everywhere. The grass was ruined. They knew this was the end of it. And they were going to have a lot of work to try to get it back up in shape. But they were standing out there in the mud in the field. But next to this field was a train track. And the train track, as they noticed, was the rain had actually washed out an embankment underneath. In fact, there was a 10-foot gap underneath the rails where a lot of the soil had washed away. And this train was a commuter train. And just as they realized this and they saw this was a potential disaster happening, they hear a train off in the distance. So they have to do something. Without even thinking about it, all 6 of these boys run up the train track towards the train. They take off their raincoats and they start flailing them around. They're just trying to wave the train down. The conductor, as he's coming up, sees these boys running towards them, and he sees them, trying to wave them down. He stops the train, and he is not happy. He's furious. He gets out. He thinks these boys are being, just punks and playing a joke or something. But when he gets out, they explain to him that there was a problem. He goes up, and he sees that there was this huge ditch. For sure, this train would have derailed, and it probably killed possibly hundreds of people that were on this train. These boys are heroes. So instantly, the conductor turns around, and the news gets out very, very quick, okay, about these 6 boys that saved the train. So they asked, what could we do? What can we give you? I mean, these were kids in an orphanage. They could have had new clothes. They could have had new baseball equipment. How about a nice meal? Just anything. You know what these boys asked for? They didn't ask for anything for themselves. They just wanted to know that Babe Ruth found out that they were heroes. See, Babe Ruth was their hero, not just because he was a Yankee, not just because he was the great Bambino that hit all these home runs. Babe Ruth also came from a boys' orphanage, and they looked up to him because they thought, if he could make it, so can we. He was so much more than just a baseball player. He was like a dream that they could try to achieve if they just, I don't know, maybe got lucky or worked hard enough. And they just wanted Babe Ruth to know. Well, Babe Ruth at the time, the Yankees were on a road trip, and they were up in Detroit. And sure enough, Babe Ruth hears about it. He sends 6 telegrams, one to each of the boys, thanking them for their hero, actions, and with them also sends an autographed baseball. This is the same baseball that John had his whole life. And when he says, when I get back to New York, we're gonna take it to Yankee Stadium and show you a good time. And sure enough, that's what happened. And this becomes a big media thing. It gets picked up on. These little boys that are heroes, they save the train, and they just wanted to, Babe Ruth to know that they had done this. And I think this is great. Sure enough, they go to Yankee Stadium. Each of them get their own special uniform. They're given gifts and toys and all the media. And in fact, before the game, with 25,000 people cheering them on, they got to go out and they got to shag fly balls and grounders hit by none other than Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. How cool is that? But that's all they wanted. They just wanted Babe Ruth to know. And as time went on, John ends up going to live with an older brother, and they separate the 6 boys, and he doesn't know what happens to them. They lose touch to him. In 2003, a local newspaper, because he never lived more than a few miles from where this happened at the orphanage in Passaic, New Jersey, and the newspaper was called The Record. And the Record comes and they interview him, and that's when he pulls out this baseball and he retells the story about how he got that and that one magical day where they just put their own safety aside and they just thought about somebody else doing what they thought was the right thing at the time. And I hope we can do that. I think this is a great story, not just because it's got Babe Ruth in it or baseball or an autograph or any of that. It's more about humanity. Do we take the time to do that? Do we look at people and say, hey, they're in need and what can I do? I hope so. I try to do that. So, have you heard this story before? I've never heard it before, and I thought it was really neat, and I thought I'd tell it with you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. By the way, the newspaper called The Record that interviewed him in Passaic, New Jersey, well, I thought this was an interesting tie. When I was 11 years old, I got my very first paid job, and I was a paper boy in northern New Jersey, and I delivered The Record. So I thought that was kind of a cool connection. Anyway, let me know what you think. Have you heard this story before? I always thought it was kind of cool, and I figure you guys want to know it too. But until next time, you guys be good.